Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, it's back to school season in Colorado. Hear what's ahead for students in the state's third largest district.
Insurance companies are starting to cut off assistance to hundreds of thousands of Americans recovering from natural disasters. We visit a hard-hit area to see the impact it's having. And minimum wage is supposed to be a living wage, but federally, it hasn't been raised in years. How much workers are really taking home when you factor in inflation?
And it was a horrible night to be driving through some of Denver's busiest areas.
All water just came on top of the car, so say, wow, what the?
Now neighbors want to know what can be done to keep it from happening again. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jason Grenauer. It's the day after some of the worst flooding the Denver Metro has seen in years. Heavy rains filling low-lying areas around I-70 last night, drains simply not keeping up with the influx of water. Today, the contractor of the Central 70 project saying automatic pumps didn't turn on automatically, but once they were turned on manually, they did work. Well, today, most of that water is gone. There's still some debris in the drains and a few lanes closed, but for the most part, traffic is back to moving as usual. Around Denver City Park, recent changes were supposed to keep the kind of flooding you see there from happening. Denver 7's Russell Haythorne talked to neighbors today who want to know why this happened and what can be done to actually fix the problem.
Yeah, you can see the aftermath of yesterday's flooding. Mud and debris just litters the yards, the front yards of the homes along Colorado Boulevard near 23rd Avenue. One of the homeowners jokingly said yesterday they had lakefront property. The city of Denver spent millions of dollars right across the street at City Park Golf Course on flood mitigation to ensure this kind of thing wouldn't happen. But these homeowners say clearly it didn't work.
It clearly didn't work. You know, given the extremes of weather we have here in Denver, there's just a limit, I think, perhaps to what you can do. And that's what I think we ran up against. In this case, there was an enormous amount of hail that came down first and filled the sewers. And then after that, the rain just kept coming and coming and coming. And it had nowhere to go.
Today, city crews began cleanup, power washing sidewalks and clearing debris from the roadways and city-owned easements. Coming up at 6, we'll have more on this issue, including an interview with Councilwoman Candy Sidabaca and the pressure the city is now facing as a result of the flooding. Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.
Now, because of all that rain and flooding, the Denver Zoo opened a little late this morning. And check out these photos that Waterworld sent us. There is such a thing as too much water, even at a water park, especially when it's filled with mud and debris. 6 rides at the Waterworld water park were shut down today so they could be repaired and cleaned. Well, coming up in just a few minutes, Mike Nelson will tell us when we can expect things to start drying out.
It was just a brutal weekend if you had to fly. Most major airlines reported delays on at least 20% of Saturday flights. For JetBlue, it was 41% of their flights delayed. Overall, 15,000 flights delayed over the weekend, 1,500 just canceled. Airlines blamed weather, particularly flash flooding in Chicago. Analysts say ongoing staff shortages factored into it as well. The Inflation Reduction Act is working its way through Congress, and it includes money to try to make the aviation industry cleaner. Right now, aviation is responsible for 3% of the world's carbon emissions, and most of that is due to fossil fuel emissions. Now, this bill includes a tax credit for airlines who begin using sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF.
I know the current administration's pushing really hard to try to hit their goal is 3 billion gallons of sustainable aviation fuel in the U.S. by 2030. I think globally we made less than 150 million gallons last year. So it's a huge, orders of magnitude improvement in what's happening.
Right now, SAF costs 3 to 4 times as much as fossil fuels. The tax credit would reduce the cost, but SAF would still be more expensive, and it's not guaranteed that producers can make enough to keep up with demand.
Today, for every 1,000 gallons that are used, there's only been 1 gallon of SAF fuel available to purchase because there are just so few plants today that are in place and producing on a commercial scale.
Several airlines are already investing in the future. Alaska Airlines and Microsoft announced a partnership with California startup 12 in July. 12 turns carbon dioxide into jet fuel, and the goal is to use captured carbon dioxide from industrial facilities. The technology has been tested. by the U.S. Air Force. Now, as many Americans struggle to make ends meet right now, states are seeing a surplus in their budget. We're taking a look into the money and where it came from, and if it could help ease some of the pressure from inflation.
Plus, a Colorado wolf sanctuary desperately needs to expand, but building a new home hasn't been easy.
COVID, just like for everybody else, really impacted cost and it impacted supply chain.
How you can help them move into their new and improved sanctuary next.